In this video, we will be examining how to graph ellipses and identify all the parts. And so the first thing we want to take a look at is the standard form for both the vertical and the horizontal ellipse. They are the same. So I need to remember one thing though, it's x minus h quantity squared over a squared plus y minus k quantity squared over b squared equals 1. So the ellipse standard form will be equal to 1, and that's something that's going to come up in a later example. So first thing you always do is you determine, is it written in standard form? So the first example, x squared over 16 plus y squared over 4 equals 1. And it does fit my standard form. And so now what I do is I identify my h, my k first. Then I go for my A, B, and C values because that will allow me to find all of the parts of the ellipse. So let's find HK first. HK are what you are subtracting from your X in the top of the fractions, and then subtracting from the Y in the top of the fraction. So X minus H squared, here your H is 0 and your K is 0. Well, that tells me my center is located at the coordinate 0, 0. So I'm going to mark my center lightly, just so we can see it. And then I go and find my A and my B values. Well, if we remember our standard form, it's x squared over a squared. And so what that tells me is a squared is 16. That means A is 4. It's y squared over b squared. So b squared is 4, which means b is 2. This is going to help us with finding our vertices. Then I go right into finding my C value. And so remember, I told you it's always going to be C squared equals your larger minus your smaller. So my larger is A squared. The smaller is B squared. So C squared equals A squared minus B squared. C squared equals 16 minus 4, which means C squared is 12. So C is the square root of 12, which is square root of 12 is 2 square root of 3, which is approximately 3.46. So C involves some work, but I know my A, I know my B, I know my C, I know H and K. I'm done. I just have to find all the points. Now you can go to your formulas. That's perfectly fine. If you want to go and use all the formulas in the front, you can do that. I prefer to use the concepts. Your vertices are located A units from the center and B units from the center along the major and minor axes. And so when I want to identify my vertices, you notice your A is under your X. So that means for your A being 4 from the center, go 4 units along the horizontal. There's a vertex. Go 4 units in the other direction, and there's a vertex. So one of my vertices is located at negative 4, 0, and the other one is located at 4, 0. And I do the same thing with my B. Since B is under your Y, that means that goes along your vertical. And so from the center, I'm going to go up 2 units, and I'm going to go down 2 units. And so those would be the coordinates 0, negative 2, and 0, 2. If you were to use your formulas, and the formulas said do h plus or minus a comma k, and do h comma k plus or minus b. Well, you have an h of 0 and an a of 4. So you do 0 plus or minus 4 comma your k, which is 0. So 0 plus 4 is 4. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. So it works. I get the same idea. Same thing here. Your h is 0. Your k is 0 plus or minus your b, which was 2. 0 plus 2 is 2. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. So 0, 2, and 0, negative 2. So you notice I could find my vertices very easily without using the formula by learning the concept that the distance from your center to the vertices on the horizontal is A, and the distance from the center to the vertices on the vertical is B. And that's it. Now what you can do is identify the coordinates of your foci as well. So those are my vertices. Let's do the coordinates of our foci. The foci are located C units from the center on your major axis. So here my major axis is horizontal. It's the longer of the two. And so C units from the center on the major, which means I'm going to be adding and subtracting C from my horizontal value, my X value. So the formula for the focus is H plus or minus C comma K. So I would do 0 plus or minus your 3.46 comma K. So that would be the coordinates 3.46 comma 0, because your K is 0, and negative 3.46 comma 0. I prefer for the exact, so I prefer to say it is 2 square root of 3 comma 0 and negative 2 square root of 3 comma 0. And I plot those points. 3.46, a little bit less than halfway between 3 and 4, and so there's one foci. Negative 3.46, there's the other foci. Now let's sketch our ellipse. And so to sketch the ellipse, what we're going to do is just draw what I would say an oval from one to the other for it. And so I'm going to draw my oval. Here I'm going to slide it up for it. And make sure it goes through all 4 of my points. And so there is my ellipse. What's left that we need to find? We need to find our major axes. We need to find our minor axes for them. So let's find our major. The major axis is going to be, since it's horizontal, twice your A value. And so since I went 4 units to the right and 4 units to the left, my major axis is 8 units. The minor axis is twice your B value for this. And so since I went up and down 2, my minor axis is 4 units. So that's all the information I need. My center, my vertices, my foci, the length of the major axis, length of the minor axis. Let's look at another example. X squared plus y squared now have coefficients, one of 16 and one of 4, and it's equal to 144. But we note that our standard form says x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Well, I want this number to be 1. Right now it's 144. So what's the quickest way to turn it into 1 would be to divide everything by it. So I divide the left side and the right side by 144. And what happens is I'm going to get now x squared over 9 plus y squared over 36 equals 1. And so now I have my standard form. I saw before it wasn't in standard form, so I had to put it there. So now I can identify my HK, my A squared, my B squared, so my AB and my C values. So first HK. Your center here, H is 0, K is 0. So my center is 0, 0. I'm going to mark it. Now I want to work with my A and B values. So here, A squared is 9, which means A is 3. B squared is 36, which means B is 6. So since A is underneath my X, I'm going to go 3 units to the right, 1, 2, 3, there's a vertex. Go 3 units to the left, 1, 2, 3, and there's a vertex. So my vertices, I have 2, 1 and 3, 0, and one at negative 3, 0 I found for my A. Now I'm going to find the other two by using my B. Since B is 6 and it's located under the Y, I'm going to go up 6 units. And I'm going to go down 6 units. And so those are the coordinates 0, negative 6, and 0, 6. So there's the coordinates of my vertices. You can use the formulas. I have no problem with you doing that, but I want to teach you the concepts. A and B are your distances. Just count left, right, up, down. That's it. That's not very hard to do. And so now let's work on finding our foci. So the foci use the formula c squared equals the larger of the two, so that would be b squared minus a squared. So c squared equals 36 minus 9, which means c squared is 27. So c is the square root of 27, which the square root of 27 simplifies into 3 radical 3, which is approximately 5.2. So that's your c. The foci are located c units from the center on the major axes. So if I take a look at my graph, I can see that my larger axis is vertical, up and down. So that means I would do h comma my k value, my vertical value, plus or minus c. So I have 0 comma 0 plus or minus 3 radical 3. So my foci are located at 0 comma 3 radical 3 and 0 negative 3 radical 3. I prefer the radicals, but if you want to use the decimals, then that'd be 0 comma 5.2 and 0 comma negative 5.2. And so I would plot those here and here. And so now I can sketch my ellipse for it. And so to sketch the ellipse, just draw an oval around all the points for it. And I'm just going to slide mine over. So it goes through my points and stretch it out. And there's my ellipse. Now, if I want to now identify the length of my major and the length of my minor axes, that's where my A and B values go in. Here, your major axis is vertical. So then you do twice your B value. So twice 6 is 12. Your minor axis is horizontal, so you do twice your A value. So twice 3 is 6. And so now I know all of my parts. I know my center, I know the coordinates of my vertices, the coordinates of my foci, the length of the major and minor axes, and I was able to sketch the graph. So what have we learned? We've learned if you can get it in standard form, your H and K is no different than a circle the way we did it. That's your center. And we learned that A and B are the key to this whole concept. A is the distance from the center to the vertices on the horizontal axis. B is the distance from the center to the vertices on the vertical axis. So you can just count instead of using the formulas. It's way easier to do it that way. C is found by using c squared equals the larger minus the smaller, a squared minus b squared, or b squared minus a squared. Go through, if you want to use the decimal, you can, and then just count again, and you get your answers for it. So just refresh your memory through this video and all the shortcuts before you move on to the next two examples.